Now reached the number 49 slot. This time we are ready to begin with number 49, Edelgard from Fire Emblem Three Houses. I think she's one of the best written characters in the game with one of the most interesting routes, at least from like a narrative standpoint, where she breaks off and you are basically doing the opposite of what you're doing for every other route. And I think that's a really nice change of pace, even if they kind of underdevelop all of it in the process of the game, which I think is really where her like flaws lie for me. Is that I just wish we had seen more of her and that her arc was more fleshed out than it actually ended up being. Number 48, we have Koito Yu from Bloom Into You. I just think she's rad. Her arc and just character in Bloom Into You is really great. She's such a perfect protagonist for the story and just navigating all the issues that come along with it in a way that keeps you engaged while also being relatable content. Number 47, we have Nico Robin from One Piece. She just has a great design and is really interesting for like the world of One Piece, where she is involved in all of the stuff, but also is really into the kind of lore of the world while still having a good demeanor and good involvement with the Straw Hats that really makes her a joy to be on screen and also to see whatever she's cooking on the sidelines in like half of the arcs. For number 46, we have another One Piece character. We got Monkey D. Luffy, the big guy himself. I think he's just such a joy to be around. He steals every scene and he's just such a good center for One Piece in that he's so pure and optimistic about his dream, but also strong enough to back it up and to fight and to really stick his nose into things and be able to resolve them. With most of the arcs being that he just kind of shows up and wrecks or changes the world around him is really cool, and I like it a lot. A similar way, for number 45, we have Shanks, who's also from One Piece, who I just think has a peak design. And he's just so cool. Every time he shows up, you're like, yes, you've been here for one chapter. You haven't been here for like 200, but you're like, oh yeah, it's Shanks time. And I just love that about him. He's got such a cool design. He's so cool for like the world too, where he's just this like chill dude, but like when he means business, he means business. And I think his actions in Mareeford were sick, that he has that much power and influence that he can just be like, we're done here, boys. Pack it up. We're going home. And I'm like, yes, sir. We will be going home. For 44, we have Yui Yuigahama from Origairu. As the one who doesn't get the love interest in the end, ultimately, spoilers, but she has some like the most emotional moments in the series, but still is just kind of the weakest one for me personally. In that I think she has a really good arc, but man, does it hurt sometimes. And I think she takes it well, but there are still the moments where it's like, you have lost. Like, let's take a step back here, partner. And that's not even getting into the post anime stuff, which I refuse to acknowledge that it exists because I think it's stupid. Number 43, we have another Origairu character, Yukinoshida, who is in a similar vein, but I think her growth is really well done in that you can very clearly see her progress as like a human being, and I think that rules. There's still room for more development come the end of the show, and I wish we would have seen more of that because we kind of just see her. She's just left her shell and is like becoming a fully fledged human being. And I wish we would have gotten a little more, but I'm glad that we at least got to see her break out of that shell and become like a normal human being. So you have number 42, Oikawa Toru from Haikyuu. He's just the coolest. He's so much fun. Such a joy to be in every scene. And I think his involvement in Karasuno and Hinata and Kageyama's growth and development is sick, but also I just love seeing him every time. He's so much fun. Every scene he's in, he steals, and you're like, yes, this is the king. And if he got his own side story, one shot or whatever, I would be a okay with that because I love him so much and I think he rules. And he also has a couple of the best moments in the series with the pointing scene and then the talent one, which just rule so much and are among the greatest moments in Haikyuu, of which there are so many. Number 41, we have Asa Takumi from Ikoku Nikki, who I think is just like the best depiction of like a child or like and grow emerging adolescent in like anything, because there are so many moments where she's just like, I don't get it, and it's like you'll grow up and you'll kind of understand, but the series does a great job of making you aware and acknowledge and be empathetic towards this person who has lost all of her family and is still like just trying to navigate that. And I think Ikoku Niki's very sensitive about it while still understanding how someone goes through that journey, which rules a lot, and I love it a whole lot. For number 40, we have Nana Komatsu from Nana. This is the blonde haired one, or presumably blonde haired. I read it in black and white. That's my mental image. I haven't looked at the color things in a while. I just think she's so interesting and like she isn't inherently that special. Like she's just kind of a girl. Like she just meanders and wanders and flip flops so much, but she feels so real because of that, where it's just like she does not have her stuff together and she's just trying to figure it out, and it is much more complicated than it maybe needs to be. But I think it's so much more real and relatable for that, where it's like she just does not know what her life holds, but she is just moving through it. And I think that rules so much and is peak relatable content for me. I wish the series would come back. I don't think it ever will, but I'm glad we got what we did. For number 39, we have Gyro Zeppeli from JoJo Part 7. He's just cool. Part 7 is probably the like objectively best JoJo part in that like it's condensed, it's concise, it doesn't hold you too long. And also just like the best duo in Gyro and Johnny. And I think Gyro is just a blast to be around from a design and also just from a character standpoint. Man is just a cowboy. He's just got his balls, and that rules. And adding on to that, we have number 38, Johnny Joestar from JoJo Part 7. I don't know why I like this one so much, and he's a good and really well written character. But like, of the designs of the JoJos, he's not like the most intricate or any. He's just kind of a guy. But I just grew so fond and attached to him throughout the course of Part 7 that I'm like, oh yeah, he's one of the greats. Number 37, we have Giovanna Giorno from JoJo Part 5, my favorite JoJo part. I think he just has the coolest stand of all of the main protagonists. And it's interesting that he isn't the like Joe star or like the JoJo, but how they fit that into the he's a JoJo and like, okay, guys, I get it. But I also just think he has such an interesting stand and is so enjoyably in that like he's trying to fix the system, but then he also just gets involved with the system. And ultimately, I think the way that the story ends with him and his crew rules so much and makes me think so much fonder of him than maybe other parts. But he's just got a sick design, sick stand, a good cast of characters in his part, and I just like seeing him. I just enjoy seeing him exist in a world. For number 36, we have Frerin from Sosei no Frerin. She's just vibing. Like she's all her friends are dead, but she's just existing in the world. And I think her reconciling that with also seeing echoes of the past and the people she's picked up in the present is sick and a really interesting dynamic where it's like this is someone who has lived so much longer than all of the people she was with and shared so many special memories with, but she still has to continue to live on. For number 35, we have Kumiko Omae from TBK Euphonium. She's just so good. Such a good little kiddo. Relatable and also just such a fun presence with her little Kumikoisms. I haven't seen this show in a while, but I know she was just the greatest, and I love her a lot. And I wish they would put the other things from the more recent seasons out on things I could watch them because I want to see more of her, which really just means I need to rewatch it, but I haven't yet. Number 34, we have Shima Sosuke from Skip and Loafer. He's a little lost guy, just confused, just trying to figure his life out after being through so much. And I think had I read Skip and Loafer in high school, I would have related to this man immensely, immensely. But I didn't. But I can still acknowledge that he is going through these struggles and very confused, just trying to figure it out, as any high schooler is. And I think the way we're seeing him develop is really engaging, and he's just this little fluffy guy that is not a little fluffy guy on the inside. He is a struggling man and a half. And I like that. I'm excited to see how he grows and becomes better. For number 33, we have Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels. I think he is probably one of the best Jedi in Star Wars media because he's just so real about it. Like, I think once we get past the episode 3 and we're into the like post Jedi Order Rebel Jedi, I guess, where it's like these guys are all just trying to exist and they're all teaching in their own way that matches with the situations they're in while also taking from the stuff they learned at the temple, while also acknowledging that that is not always what is needed and there are better ways to train people than just that. And I think Kanan's training of Ezra is a great example of that, where he is very trying to teach him the ways of the Jedi Order as he knows them, but also acknowledging that times have changed and things also need to change in that fact. And I think that's really cool. I think his role in the last season of Rebels is great. He has so many great moments where I'm just like, God, I love this guy. Like, he's easily top 1 or 2 for my favorite Jedi of all time, just because he's so real. He's just so real. We love him for it. He's just the best. For number 32, we have Miyamura Izumi from Horimiya. I think Horimiya is my comfort show in manga, where it's like nothing is happening here, but I am just having a blast. And I think Miyamura is always just a blast to have on screen or on the page when I'm reading, and I'm like, we're going to have some fun times here. And I did. Every time he's on the screen, I'm like, we're in for a joy. It may not be the deepest joy or anything, but it's fun. He's fun, and I love his design and his dynamic with Hori, to where I just have no complaints. I'm just like, man, what a great guy. For number 31, we have Serpico from Berserk. I think he's one that comes in later, but his design is awesome. I think his like wind fairy technique is also so cool. Where I'm just like, man, I have no complaints with this cool sword guy, as I don't with most sword guys, because that is what I love the most. But I also like his dynamic with Guts, where they are kind of button heads, but they kind of gradually are growing to understand and kind of respect each other, while still acknowledging like the differences in their situations and their relationship. And the fight on the mountain, also just sick. I love it so much. It's so cool. For number 30, we have Simone from Gurren Lagann. He's just cool. I think he's kind of growth throughout the series and encapsulation of all of the ideas of the series is so great, and that you see him grow from this little kind of kid growing tunnel and digging tunnels and do all that fun stuff into this guy that is just ready to seize the world and shows like the indomitable human spirit in a way that I think few series are able to do, where it's like we will challenge God because we are humans and we deserve to choose our own fate. And I think the final arc, especially, is really great at just showing how far he's come, but also how strong the human spirit can be. He's just one of those that you see and you're like you feel the vigor in your soul watching him exist. For number 29, we have Judo from Berserk. He's just such a vibe. Like he's invested in all the plot and the events and is an integral part of developing the relationships and just being there for Guts, for Casca, just kind of growing people in his own little nudges. He also has a sick design and he's kind of just vibing and I love him. And I'm sad we don't get to see more of him. But I'm glad he exists for as long as he did. He's so cool. For number 28, we have Yang Wenli from Legend of Galactic Heroes. I haven't finished it. I'm like halfway through the original, or a little over half. I think I'm like 50 or 60-ish or something like that. 60 or 70, I forget. He is such a great, refreshing take on like the protagonist commander kind of character where it's like every fight he's like, I don't want anyone to die. I really don't want to be fighting in general. But he understands that he has to and is constantly just being grabbed by the arm to be like, time to go fight, buddy. Where it's like every mission he's under is how many people can I keep alive? How few casualties can I have? While also just being this chill little guy living life. And I think it helps with his just constant reminder where he is just trying to not be in the war as much as possible. And also is just like, give me some booze. I need to stomach this. And I'm like, amen, brother. You're living the good life. Except not really because you're in the middle of a war. Number 27, we have Kido Shinsuke from Haikyuu. Probably the smallest role character in Haikyuu, at least among my list. But the impact he has, I think, is so strong for me that I hold him in such high regard because he's this guy who just diligently got at it and kept at it, kept grinding and grinding and grinding to get better, and then eventually you see the fruit of that labor and he gets rewarded. And seeing him get all emotional, he's the captain, I'm like, yes sir, that hits. Maybe all the hard work I put in will finally reward itself one day. And then I start crying. And I think his role in that post time skip is sick. I think they do so little with so much. Where it's one of those like most manga series, and they get towards the end, they show all the time skip ones, and it's like these big characters have started a family or blah 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 blah. But I think the way Haikyuu does it is, it's a simple enough inclusion, but it means so much to just like see the few aspects where he has kept himself involved in a meaningful way. And I love it so much, and it makes me cry just thinking about it. Number 26, we have Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. She's just the goodest girl of them all. There's such like a pure warmth and empathy in her heart that is not present in like any character that I've ever seen besides her, where she just always believes the best in people and is trying to find the like warm human nature in them. Even these just like outwardly terrible looking people, she's constantly like trying to find the good in them. And knowing that there is some in that person or those people, and then slowly digging it away by just being so kind and empathetic that she eventually does unveil all of the good in the entire cast there, where you're like, yes, you are the best girl. Just the goodest of them all. And finally, we have number 25, Gilgamesh, which I'm counting from all of the Fate series because I love all of his iterations. He's just so cool. He just has such a great commanding presence in any series he's in, even if it is a bit part where it's like Zero, he just commands the fights and is such an integral part of the series. Babylonia, he's such an integral part of that, and he's just established himself as a character in any iteration as this guy who just stands head and shoulders above the rest with the confidence of a king, where you're like, yes, sir, you know who I am. And I go, yes, sir, I do. He just rules. He's so much fun to play in FGO too. He's one of the few servants I, not unintentionally, but got to NP5, and I will never regret that. And I love him so much. He's so cool.